this is what has happened in the NFL years ago. I remember talking about this 10 years ago. And it's going to come up with whatever they decide to do here with the core four moving forward. Everyone is obsessed with, like, you've got to get assets. You got to bring players back. And I think that clearly needs to be a part of the program. I'm not saying you just dump somebody. But having cap space is an asset. Like, you have to look at it that way. Getting the money is an asset. And just fulfilling it immediately with other players, if they're the right players, so be it. That's great.
But if it's the wrong ones, it's stupid.
It's stupid, and that's the thing. Yeah. Like, if you make a trade where you bring in 2 or 3 guys that are going to fill up $11 million, okay, and those are the guys you want, and you were going to, if they were free agents, you would have given them the money, and now instead you're going to acquire them via a trade, go for it.
Right.
But if you can't find a deal out there that makes sense in terms of the money,
you don't do it.
Keep the money and spend the money where you want to spend it appropriately. Yep. Like, it's something that, like, the NHL, I think it's getting there, but it's that way in the NFL, and it's been that way for a long time. They will cut players in the NFL who are really good players because they're like, we need that money, and we need that money for not this year, but 2, 3, 5 years down the road. And so be it. Like, we're going to move
like, everybody
off players.
right now is just like, oh, Marner's got to go. Marner's got to go. It's like, if you're just going to unload Marner to bring in 2 other guys or whatever it is, and just to say you're doing it, everyone's talking about that. You just don't do a deal to do it. You just can't do that.
You can't do that because your team's worse. Mitch Marner is a 100-point guy, we'll call it, and he's been an all-star. He's been a top-tier player. Yes, regular season, but if you look at this team and the way it's constructed, we were talking off air. You still got to make the playoffs. They've made the playoffs 8 years in a row, and under this group, you've got to give yourself a chance. If you take a key player out of it and you don't replace it properly, your team is weaker. Mm-hmm. And you don't make a trade for the sake of making a trade. Everyone says, well, addition by subtraction. In that case, it wouldn't be addition by subtraction. Yes, you'd get cap space, but what if you end up getting a player that, this is a bad kind of comparison. Everyone in Edmonton, Taylor Hall's got to go, and it's Adam Larson that comes in, right? Because they did need a right shot D. They coveted it. Adam Larson's a really nice player. Taylor Hall goes and wins the Hart. He goes and puts up 90 points and is a really good player. And all people do is look at, well, one guy got 90 points, the other guy's a stay-at-home defenseman.
Yeah, and all of them together in the playoffs, they don't get it done. And I think Mitch Marner would admit that to yourself, if you sat down with him, he needed to play better in the playoffs. He's always needed to be better. But he sure as hell helps them get there. So it's like, if you take him out of the equation, somebody's got to go in there and get Austin Matthews 30 apples a year and penalty kill and play on the power play. So all I'm saying is you got to get different players. These guys have proven that they don't get it done in the playoffs. But that guy during the regular season, he helps get that team to the playoffs, so you better put something else in there.
Yeah, and that's what Sheldon said last hour, too. I mean, and naturally he's going to have this take because he's been on the wrong side of it. He's been with the Leafs for years where it's a game of inches and it's a thin line between who gets through and who doesn't, and it's really tough to win in the playoffs, which is all true and accurate.
Yeah, we're watching it every night now.
Yeah, it is valid, but yeah, as I've said for a couple of years, it's very intoxicating to know you're going to make the playoffs. It's very comforting to know you're going to make the playoffs. And if the Leafs bring back basically a similar roster, that's what they'll do. Like they'll make the playoffs, and then they'll hope things break their way. It probably won't happen.
Is it more comforting knowing you're going to, or thinking you're going to make the playoffs, or you're just not going to miss? It's just like, not missing is not an option, so we're a lot more comfortable with the regular.
I think they've been living like that for the last 2 or 3 years.
Would you rather that there was roster change, a roster reconstruction, however you want to phrase it, but there's a chance there's a step back, and now you're in one to make the playoffs?
Mm-hmm. I would almost take the risk.
But if you make it, you might go on a run. But if you don't make it, it's like, okay, we're taking a step back, we're going to clear some cap space. Or you just stick with the same group.
What could be worse, Jamie? You get pumped in the first round again? I'd rather take my chances.
That's where I was floating it out there to you guys.
Yeah, no, exactly. I know where I answer. It doesn't matter what we think, though.
No, I know.
What matters is Shanahan, Tree Living, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. It's their call.